Jennifer Lynn Lopez, please approach the stand. Hold up, what? Yes, you heard me right, J. Lo, the queen of the block, the Bronx's finest, strutting into a courtroom like it's the set of her next blockbuster. But this ain't no rom-com, folks. This is raw, unfiltered, edge-of-your-seat drama, and it's got the whole world clutching their popcorn. We're talking a 1999 nightclub shooting, whispers of coercion, manipulation, and some seriously shady vibes that make your wildest reality TV reunion look like a kiddie show. So grab your snacks, smash that subscribe button, hit the bell, and let's unpack this saga like it's the season finale of the century. Ready? Let's go. The scene's set in June 2025 and this New York City courtroom. It's giving main character energy. The air's so thick you could slice it with a butter knife and spread it on toast. The judge is perched like a hawk. The jury's leaning in like they're watching the Super Bowl halftime show. And outside, reporters are losing their entire minds. Pens flying, cameras flashing like it's the Met Gala on steroids. Why? Because Jennifer Lopez, the J. Lo, the woman who turned Jenny from the block into a global anthem, walks in like she's stepping onto a battlefield. She's rocking a charcoal gray suit, dark sunglasses shielding her eyes like a superhero's mask, and an aura that screams, "I'm here, and I'm not messing around." The room goes dead silent, like someone hit the mute button on the universe. Even Diddy, Sean Combs, the mogul at the center of the storm, looks like he's sweating buckets, his fingers tapping faster than a TikTok dance trend. The judge lays it down, cool as ice, but with that "don't try me" vibe. Miss Lopez, thank you for appearing under subpoena. You've been called to testify due to your documented history and close personal relationship with Mr. Combs, particularly events occurring between 1999 and 2003. Do you understand the scope of your testimony? J. Lo's voice is soft, almost a whisper, but it hits like a sledgehammer. I do. The gallery's buzzing like a beehive. The jury's glued like they're binge-watching a Netflix thriller, and Diddy? He's looking like he just realized his Wi-Fi's down in the middle of a Zoom call. This isn't just a day in court. This is history unfolding, and we're all front row for it. Let's rewind to the late 90s when J. Lo and Diddy were the power couple, serving looks and making tabloids eat out of their hands. They were the Brangelina of their time, dripping in glitz, glamour, and just a sprinkle of danger. Think red carpets, Versace dresses, and paparazzi flashbulbs popping like firecrackers. But the prosecutor's not here for the nostalgia vibes. She's coming in hot, holding up a file like it's the key to Narnia. Miss Lopez, you were present during the December 1999 incident involving a nightclub shooting in New York City, alongside Mr. Combs. Is that correct? J. Lo pauses, and you can feel 26 years of weight pressing down on her like a stack of gold records. Yes, she says, her voice steady but heavy, like she's carrying a suitcase full of secrets. The room's so quiet you could hear a sequin drop. The prosecutor's not playing. You were detained by NYPD, but released without charges. Do you recall what Mr. Combs said to you during the drive away from the scene? J. Lo hesitates, and you can almost see the memories flickering behind her eyes like an old VHS tape stuck on fast forward. He told me not to speak to anyone, she says. That his people would make it go away. Oof. That's not just a red flag. That's a whole 4th of July parade of red flags. The prosecutor holds up that file again, and here's where it gets spicier than a jalapeno popper. Do you recognize this? J-Lo nods, her face tight. That's the statement I gave to the police, but it's missing pages. The prosecutor smirks like she just drew a royal flush. Exactly. Pages that were sealed by private legal counsel and allegedly edited at Mr. Combs' request before the file was finalized. Diddy's lawyer leaps up yelling, "Objection! Speculation! Unsubstantiated!" But the judge shuts it down faster than you can say overruled. The tea is officially boiling over. Let's hit pause and zoom out for a sec. Imagine being Jay. Lo, global superstar, dancing in front of millions, selling out arenas, starring in rom-coms that defined a generation, and now you're dragged back to a moment from 1999 you thought was buried under a pile of platinum albums and Oscar-worthy performances. It's like finding an old diary entry that says, "Oops, forgot to mention I was in a car chase with a mogul who told me to keep my mouth shut." And now she's spilling it all in front of a jury, cameras, and the entire world. This isn't just a testimony. It's a full-on reckoning, like the universe decided it's time to balance the scales. The prosecutor pivots to a new chapter, a Miami mansion in the summer of 2001. Miss Lopez, do you recall attending an event at Mr. Combs' Miami mansion? J. Lo blinks, her face tightening like she's trying to keep a lid on a pressure cooker. Yes. The prosecutor leans in, sharp as a tack. Were there cameras allowed inside that night? J. Lo shakes her head. No, phones were taken at the gate. And what were guests told? J. Lo swallows hard, her voice barely above a whisper. They were told it was a spiritual and creative renewal experience. The prosecutor raises an eyebrow and you can practically hear the audience thinking, "Girl, say what now?" And was that accurate? J. Lo's voice drops lower, like she's confessing a sin. No. The room stirs like a pot about to boil over. Please elaborate, the prosecutor says, and J. Lo lets it rip. It was something else. There were rooms I wasn't allowed in. People I didn't recognize. Music played all night, but not the kind you'd dance to. It felt staged, controlled. Okay, let's break this down with an analogy that hits home. Imagine you're invited to a chill barbecue at a friend's mansion. But when you show up, it's less burgers and vibes and more secret society meeting with NDAs thicker than a phone book and creepy elevator music. That's the vibe J. Lo's painting. And then she drops the hammer. He said if I love my career, I'd keep those memories private. The courtroom gasps like they just saw a plot twist in a thriller. J. Lo looks straight at Diddy and says, yes, for 24 years. Mic drop. That's not just a statement. That's a wrecking ball smashing through the shiny facade of an empire. Before we dive deeper, I gotta remind you, hit that like button, smash that subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss a single second of this drama. We're just scratching the surface, and trust me, it's about to get wilder than a roller coaster with no brakes. The prosecutor's circling back now, holding a small red evidence folder like it's a ticking time bomb ready to blow the roof off. Ms. Lopez, I'd like to revisit the night of January 14th, 2000, less than a month after the nightclub shooting. You and Mr. Combs were photographed entering a private after-party in Beverly Hills. Do you recall that evening, Jay? Lo nods slowly, like she's stepping into a haunted house she'd rather forget. Yes. He told me it was a celebration for getting past the worst of it. I didn't want to go, but he insisted. The prosecutor's eyes narrow like a detective in a crime drama. Did anything stand out about that night, Jay? Lo chooses her words like she's defusing a bomb. Everything. It wasn't a party, it was an audition. The room ripples with confusion like someone just flipped the script. An audition? Yes, J-Lo says, her voice firm as steel. He paraded people in front of a select group of guests. Models, young artists, people with NDAs thicker than the Bible. Everyone there knew they were being watched and chosen. Chosen for what? She doesn't know, but it felt transactional, controlled, cold. Let's paint a picture here. Imagine you're at a party, but instead of sipping cocktails and vibing to the beat, you're being sized up like you're on the shadiest job interview of your life. The air's heavy, the vibes are off, and you're wondering if you accidentally walked into a scene from Eyes Wide Shut. That's the scene J-Lo's laying out. The prosecutor's not letting up, flashing an email chain on the overhead projector. It's from a laptop confiscated from one of Diddy's former employees, and J. Lo's name is right there, next to a note that says, Jay knows. Reinforce the pact. Reassure her this is her launch pad. J. Lo's face stiffens like she's been slapped. Yes, she says. He told me this was how the industry worked, that sometimes success required a little compromise. That I had talent, but talent wasn't what made stars. Allegiance did. Allegiance. That word lands like a thunderclap, echoing through the courtroom. It's not just about loyalty. It's about being owned, like a pawn in a game you didn't sign up to play. The courtroom's buzzing again, but the judge raises his hand, and it's like someone hit the mute button on a chaotic playlist. The prosecutor's voice cuts through like a laser. Miss Lopez, did you ever fear Mr. Combs? J. Lo looks down, takes a deep breath, and then locks eyes with the prosecutor, her gaze steady but raw. Yes, not because he hurt me physically, but because I knew what he was capable of. The reach. The people who owed him. The people who feared him. I didn't want to disappear, so I stayed close and I stayed quiet. The prosecutor nods, her tone softening like she's speaking to a friend. You had a career to protect, Jay. Lo corrects her, voice quivering but fierce. I had myself to protect. The room's not just listening now. It's feeling her pain, her fear, her fight to survive in a world where one wrong move could erase you faster than a bad tweet. The prosecutor's pacing, building to a crescendo like a DJ dropping the beat. Ladies and gentlemen, she says to the jury, consider what Miss Lopez just said. This is a global superstar, a woman with fame, wealth, platforms, and yet she still feared what this man could do to her if she stepped out of line. What does that tell you about the others? The ones without platforms? The ones who didn't get to walk away? She turns back to J-Lo, her voice steady but piercing. One final question. Do you regret staying silent? J. Lo blinks, her voice a whisper but sharp as a blade. Every single day. She looks at the jury, her eyes burning with a quiet fire. I watched people disappear. Not literally, but from rooms, from credits, from opportunities. I watched people get blacklisted, broken down, erased. And I knew if I said one wrong word, I'd be next. The silence in the room is deafening, like the world's holding its breath. But I'm not afraid anymore, she adds. And you can feel the shift, like a storm breaking after years of dark clouds. The judge calls for a recess, but the weight of J. Lo's words hangs in the air like a fog you can't shake. This isn't just a pop star spilling tea. This is a woman peeling back the curtain on an industry built on secrets, silence, and power plays. And we're only halfway through this roller coaster, so don't you dare touch that pause button. Keep it locked right here. All right, we're back. And the courtroom's vibe is heavier than a Monday morning after a weekend Netflix marathon. Jay. Lo's back on the stand, and the prosecutor's holding a USB drive like it's the key to a vault full of skeletons. Miss Lopez, she says, you testified earlier about private events hosted by Mr. Combs. This court has just obtained an audio file, dated October 2002, recorded from an external surveillance microphone that was never submitted into evidence until now. You were present at the event. Do you consent to this being played? Jay. Lo inhales deeply, like she's bracing for a tidal wave. Yes. The screen lights up and the audio hits. Muffled chatter, clinking glasses, and then Diddy's voice clear as a bell. She's hesitant, but she'll come around. She knows what's at stake. Another voice chimes in. You sure about J-Lo? Diddy's reply. Trust me, I know how to handle her. The courtroom freezes like someone hit pause on a blockbuster. Jay. Lo's face drains of color. Her jaw clenched like she's biting back a scream. The prosecutor's voice is steady but cuts like a knife. Do you recognize that exchange? Jay. Lo's throat tightens, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes, that was the night I left the party early. I remember the pressure. He wanted me to introduce certain people to industry guests. People I didn't know. I told him I felt uncomfortable. I was scolded for embarrassing him. The prosecutor nods, her eyes locked on J-Lo. And when you said no, what happened? Jay. Lo's voice cracks, but she holds it together like a pro. I didn't get calls for 2 months. Not from film studios, not from labels. It was like I disappeared overnight. The prosecutor's eyes narrow like a hawk. You believe he blacklisted you? Jay. Lo doesn't hesitate. I know he did. Because when I confronted him about it, he told me, next time, remember who gave you your platform. Let's take a second to unpack this with an analogy that hits like a beat drop. Imagine you're Jay. Lo, building your empire, hustling from Selena to sold-out tours, and one wrong move, saying no to the wrong person, puts your whole career on ice, like your Spotify playlist got deleted mid-jam. It's like playing a game of chess where your opponent controls the board, the rules, and the clock. That's the kind of power we're talking about here. And Jay, Lo's not just spilling her own tea. She's exposing a system where silence was the price of survival, like paying rent to keep your dreams alive. The prosecutor's not letting up, and she's got more ammo. She holds up a stack of black and white photographs, and the room's buzzing again. Miss Lopez, these images were obtained from a confidential source tied to a private investigator hired in the early 2000s to monitor high-profile celebrity parties. Your image appears in several of them. Do you recognize these? Jay. Lo takes the photos, her hands steady but her eyes betraying the storm inside. She studies them. One shows her seated on a leather couch beside Diddy. Another captures her walking into a gated property in the Hollywood Hills, her face tense, her hand being held not affectionately, but urgently, like a leash. She nods. Yes, that was the San Remo property. He had it rented under someone else's name. It was a no-phone zone. Everyone who entered had to sign NDAs. The prosecutor's voice is calm but razor-sharp. Did you know what the event was before you arrived? J-Lo's voice drops, heavy with memory. I was told it was a business dinner, but it wasn't. What was it? The room leans in, hanging on her every word. It was an initiation. Initiation. The word lands like a thunderbolt, and the gallery shifts uncomfortably, like they just realize they're in way deeper than they thought. Even the judge raises his eyebrows, and that guy's seen it all. An initiation into what? The prosecutor presses. J-Lo's voice is low, deliberate. Into his inner circle. The ones who got access, protection. But it came at a cost. There were rooms in that house I wasn't allowed to go near. People were escorted in, then disappeared for hours. The prosecutor's eyes narrow. Were drugs involved? J-Lo nods. Yes. Were minors present? J. Lo hesitates, and the room holds its breath. I don't know their ages, she says, her voice breaking. But some of them looked younger than they should have been. The courtroom erupts in gasps, like a live studio audience reacting to a plot twist. Did you ever report what you saw? J-Lo shakes her head, her eyes distant. To who? At the time, he was untouchable. Backed by billionaires, producers, executives. If I said anything, it would have been buried, and I would have gone with it. Let's zoom out again. This is J. Lo, global icon, the woman who slayed the Super Bowl halftime show, the queen of reinvention, sitting in a courtroom, peeling back layers of an industry that thrives on glamour but hides some seriously dark corners. It's like finding out your favorite fairy tale has a grim alternate ending. She's not just testifying about Diddy, she's exposing a machine that chews up dreams and spits out silence. And the prosecutor's got one more card to play. A voicemail from April 2003, recovered from J-Lo's former publicist's cloud archive. Miss Lopez, in this voicemail, Mr. Combs is heard threatening to release private videos if you chose to walk away. Do you recall receiving such a threat? Tears form in J-Lo's eyes, but she doesn't break. Yes, he left it after I told him I wanted to end all ties with him, professionally and personally. He said he had footage from nights I didn't even remember. He said if I ever turned on him, I'd lose everything. The prosecutor looks to the judge. Permission to play the voicemail? The judge nods, and the room falls silent as Diddy's voice fills the air, cold and menacing. Don't forget who helped you build your brand. I've got hours of tape. Walk away if you want, but don't walk too far. I'll make sure everyone sees what the superstar really looks like when the cameras are off. The room's hushed like a graveyard at midnight. Lo closes her eyes, her hands trembling slightly, but she doesn't crumble. The prosecutor turns to her, voice soft but firm. Why are you speaking now, Jay? Lo's whisper is raw, powerful. Because silence didn't save me. It only extended the pain. And if there's even one person watching this trial who's still scared of him, maybe hearing me say this gives them permission to stop being afraid. Diddy's unraveling, his legal team frozen, no objections, no strategies, just the reality that his past, once buried under platinum records and golden deals, is now in full view, and it's uglier than a bad Instagram filter. The judge recesses the court, but Lo's words linger like a melody you can't shake. This isn't just a pop star dropping gossip. This is a woman cracking open a vault sealed for over 2 decades, exposing a culture of silence that's been festering in the shadows of fame. And we're not done yet, fam. There's more to this story, and it's about to hit harder than a bass drop at a festival. The next morning, the courtroom's a straight-up circus. Reporters are lined up before dawn, security's doubled, and the vibe's electric like the world's waiting for the grand finale. Lo's back for cross-examination, and Diddy's lawyer's coming in like he's got something to prove. Miss Lopez, he starts all smug and calculated, you've described a great deal of emotional pressure, complicated relationships, and powerful figures. But wouldn't you agree that in the years since your separation from Mr. Combs, you've never filed a formal complaint against him? Lo doesn't flinch, her eyes locked on him like a laser. No, I didn't. Why not? He presses, thinking he's got her cornered. Because the world didn't listen to women like me when I had less power. And by the time I had enough of it, I'd been trained to stay silent. The lawyer's thrown, but he keeps pushing, pacing like a wannabe TV villain. So you stayed silent out of self-interest? Lo's eyes flash like a warning sign. I stayed silent out of survival. The room's silent again, hanging on her words. Power doesn't always show up as violence, she continues. Sometimes it's just a look, a reminder, a whisper in a hallway about what could be taken from you. When someone like him says, be careful, you don't wait to find out what that means. The lawyer's losing ground and he knows it. He tries one last jab. You claim he threatened to release videos. Did he ever actually release anything? Lo's voice is steel, cutting through the room like a blade. No, because I lived with him. I knew what he had. Cameras on, rooms wired. Conversations recorded without consent. You don't need to see the tapes when a man like that says he's got you on them. You believe him. The prosecutor steps up for redirect, her tone gentle but unwavering. Miss Lopez, one final question. What do you want your testimony to accomplish? Lo looks at the jury, her voice steady as a heartbeat, but burning with a fire that could light up the room. I want the truth to matter. I want people to stop thinking silence equals consent. And I want him to know I'm not afraid of him anymore. The room's frozen like time itself hit the brakes. Diddy stands suddenly, guards tensing, but he just stares at her silent. And maybe that silence is the loudest thing he could have said. A confession without words, a crack in the armor of a man who thought he was untouchable. The judge adjourns the court, and Lo steps down, her heels echoing like a war drum across the marble floor. Outside, the world's buzzing. Headlines screaming, hashtags trending, hot takes flying faster than you can scroll. But inside that courtroom, something bigger just happened. A woman who was once silenced by power just spoke loud enough to shake an empire to its core. This isn't just a trial, it's a revolution. And Lo's the spark that's lighting it up. But let's zoom out and talk about what this means, fam. This isn't just about Lo and Diddy. It's about an industry, a culture, a system that's been running on silence for too long. Think about it. If someone like J. Lo, with all her fame, wealth, and power, was scared to speak up, what does that say about the dancers, the assistants, the stylists who didn't have her platform? The ones who disappeared from rooms, from credits, from opportunities? It's like a game of Jenga, where one wrong move can bring the whole tower crashing down. J. Lo's testimony isn't just a moment, it's a movement. A crack in the foundation of a world that thrives on secrets and NDAs thicker than a novel. Let's talk about the bigger picture. The entertainment industry's always been sold to us as this shiny, glamorous dream factory. Red carpets, award shows, chart-topping hits. But J. Lo's pulling back the curtain, and what's behind it ain't pretty. It's a world where power isn't just influence, it's control. It's a world where allegiance means keeping your mouth shut, even when you see things that make your stomach turn. It's a world where a whisper in a hallway can feel like a guillotine. And J. Lo's not just speaking for herself, she's speaking for everyone who's been told to be careful, everyone who's been handed an NDA instead of a paycheck, everyone who's been erased for asking the wrong question. The courtroom's not just a stage for legal drama, it's a mirror reflecting the cost of silence and the courage it takes to break it. J. Lo's testimony is like a pebble dropped in a pond, sending ripples through the industry, through social media, through every corner of the world that's been watching this unfold. And those ripples? They're turning into waves. People are talking, on X, on TikTok, in group chats, in coffee shops. Hashtags like Dear J-Lo Speaks and Dear Truth Matters are trending, and fans are dissecting every word, every pause, every glance she gave in that courtroom. It's not just a trial anymore. It's a cultural moment, a reckoning for an industry that's been dodging accountability for decades. But let's not get it twisted. This isn't just about tearing someone down, it's about building something new. J. Lo's not just exposing the shadows, she's shining a light on what it means to reclaim your voice. She's showing that even when you're a superstar, speaking up is scary. It's messy, it's risky, but it's also liberating, like taking off a pair of shoes that never fit right. And for every person watching, whether they're a fan, a skeptic, or just someone scrolling through the headlines, her story's a reminder. Silence might keep you safe for a while, but truth? Truth sets you free. So where do we go from here? The trial's not over, and the world's waiting to see what's next. Will more people come forward? Will the industry finally have to face the music? Or will this be another moment that fades into the noise buried under the next big headline? One thing's for sure, J-Lo's testimony has changed the game. She's not just Jenny from the block anymore. She's Jennifer, the truth teller, the survivor, the woman who looked power in the face and said, "I'm not afraid anymore." And that's a vibe we can all get behind. So, what's the takeaway, fam? This story's bigger than J. Lo, bigger than Diddy, bigger than any one courtroom drama. It's about the cost of silence, the weight of truth, and the courage it takes to break free from a system that thrives on secrets. J. Lo didn't just testify. She cracked open a vault that's been sealed for decades, and now the world's watching to see what else spills out. So, what do you think? Is this the end of an era, or the start of a reckoning? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe for more tea that's hotter than a summer in Miami. Until next time, stay woke, stay curious, and keep chasing the truth. Peace out.